All right, we will come back out of recess now. Could we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Hey, folks, we're going to stand for the pledge.
And Mr. Andros, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Teacher voice.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented this evening?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. De Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis?
Yes.
Mrs. Rigby?
Yes.
And Mr. Melody?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Okay. And I will turn it over now to Dr. Gibson and Mr. Schwanke for a presentation from Eversole Run.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. We are definitely happy to... there we go. Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. We are very happy to be here to acknowledge our wonderful team here. At this time, I am going to pass it over to Jay Schwanke, our athletic director, who will introduce names.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having us here. Wanted to say a few words about and recognize our Eversole Run Middle School competition cheerleading squad. If you didn't know, they are OASSA state champions this past year at the state competition. At Eversole, we're so incredibly proud of them. Just the amount of work that has gone into this over the years with these ladies, the tumbling, the dancing, and starting with a new school here at Eversole, what they mean to our community. Where they started in the summer and they practiced all over the summer and through the fall up until the moment in December where they won that state championship. And as a community, we couldn't be any more proud of them. So much work went into it. But beyond that, being a new school, the amount of school spirit that they've brought and the culture that they've brought of positively supporting all of our teams beyond the competition cheer mat has been amazing and incredibly appreciated. So congratulations, ladies, on a fantastic season, capping it off with the best honor. Go Eagles. I wanted to quickly introduce our cheerleading coach, Megan Bulau. She's also working with Tyler Houchin. This year he couldn't be here, and I wanted to turn the floor over here just to have her say a few words about our team this year.
Hi, thanks for having us. Tyler and I believe that it is our responsibility to prepare these young athletes for the next phase of their cheerleading career, and that means they go to Carla at Jerome, and most of you know Carla, and you know that she means business. So we feel like it's our job to prepare them for that. We hold them to a higher standard on and off the mat. We ask them to work hard and do things that they didn't know that they could do. We push them physically, mentally, and encourage them to be positive role models to other students. Without a doubt, they have proven to be excellent ambassadors for the school. Their accomplishments would not be possible without the support of the district, our school and staff, and of course their parents. Thank you for giving this team the tools to succeed. We are happy to honor all of their hard work. Let me introduce the first ever OASSA Middle School State Champions in the non-building and non-tumbling divisions. Do you want to do names? Yes. There you go.
Okay, congratulations to Sadie Aldine, Bree Amigo, Ruth Ananweezy. Elizabeth Atwood. Mia Cabral. Sylvia Caudill. Meredith Depote Fosnod. Emryn Firestone. Mila Fitzgerald. Ava Hospel. Aubrey Jenkins. Haley Corzon. Addie Lutz. Lindy Matthews. Kate Molnar. Morgan Palmer. Ari Pulsha. Alex Sargent. Quinn Taggart. And Tessa Westonsko. We're very, very proud of our Eversole Eagle Competition Cheer Squad. Give them a big round of applause. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Outstanding job to the team. All right, next we have an update on Tolles Career Center from Mr. Ireland. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. We have a presentation to the school board. I'll turn it over to Dr. Marshausen for the introduction.
Well, you guys are up. Come on up, and the clicker's on the podium. And if you'll introduce yourselves and the schools that you're from, and I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening. My name is Lydia Notman, and I'm a full IB diploma student at Emerald Campus.
Hi, my name is Saweba Newshat. I'm a junior, and my home high school is Dublin Kaufman High School.
Hi, I'm Ishan. My home school is Dublin Jerome, and I'm a junior.
Hi, my name is Will Smilik. I'm a junior, and my home high school is Dublin Scioto. I first wanted to take a moment to offer my gratitude to the Board of Education and to Dr. Marshausen for allowing us here to speak to you guys tonight. Our proposal is centered around the idea that we need a greater student voice in the policymaking process, and to accomplish this, we are proposing the addition of the Board of Education to include a non-voting student board member. We're also proposing the creation of a student group, which we will refer to as the Council, to help further amplify student voices throughout the district.
What are our goals with this proposal? Our goal is to share the voices, experiences, and concerns of the student body with board officials who influence district policies.
Why do we believe that this proposal is important? We believe that while there are many administrative duties performed by the board that are not relevant to the student experience, there are important issues addressed by the board that do play a role in our daily lives.
This proposal is important because a lack of student input can create a disconnect between the board and the policies that they make. Our proposal would help bridge the gap between the students of the district and the board policies. We truly believe that a variety of student perspectives lends credence and credibility to the board's missions and their policies.
Lastly, how would this proposal work? To start off, the council would consist of 4 juniors and 4 seniors, 2 from each of the high schools or district's high schools. Of the 4 senior representatives, 1 would be a student board member. The time on the council would be a 2-year appointment. This graphic here demonstrates the design of the council with a total of 8 members.
To briefly describe the process for selecting the juniors, an interested student would fill out an application consisting of 4 to 5 questions to help gauge interest. Next, the senior members of the council would coordinate with their home school principals to find a time to interview the applicants. Lastly, 3 to 5 student names from each building would then be delivered to the student's school, and the building staff would then select the representative. Our goal in designing the process this way is to integrate the different components of the school that the student is a part of in order to find the best candidate.
The council will have many different responsibilities as a part of their position. Most significantly, we envision the 8 members as being responsible for noticing the concerns and voicing the opinions of their fellow peers, and should create a list or collection of these concerns to present to the council at their next meeting. These concerns would be delivered in the student report, which the student member would then deliver at the next Board of Education meeting. In addition to these concerns, the report will also highlight on upcoming events from the various high schools to keep the board up to date and to increase community integration with district officials.
Next, we have the council meeting design. The meetings will be held with all 8 student board members, and they should occur within 5 school days of the next upcoming school board meeting. This provides ample time to create a student report, discuss and consider concerns, and highlight upcoming events.
Additionally, the superintendent would be invited to attend these meetings to check in and bring concerns, opportunities, or ideas to the council. We envision these meetings to be mainly students with limited adult involvement to create an open environment. Lastly, if there are votes or discussions that the board will see at the upcoming meeting, the council would discuss said issues and vote on a statement to be delivered with the student report. During the board meetings, the student representative would not have voting privileges, but would still be a full member of the board. We envision that the student member would be involved in executive sessions and all planning meetings, with limited exceptions such as disciplinary action, personnel decision, and litigation.
Now looking a bit further down the timeline at a few rough estimates of important dates we envision. Starting off here in January, we have our proposal to the Board of Education. Then in February, we're hoping that the proposal will go through legislative process. In March, followed by action beginning on implementation. Then in April, the council meetings would start. We hope to have the first youth board member chosen and attend their first board meeting. Then in May, the youth board member will be delivering the first student report before the end of the school year. We are expecting the student board member to attend meetings year-round. This would include through the summer. Back in school in August, the selection process for the 4 new juniors will commence. Lastly, in September, the selection process will end and the new members will be welcomed, which would start the responsibilities of the new council.
Finally, a brief analysis of our proposal. We believe that our proposal provides many benefits for the district and the Board of Education, including allowing the board to utilize a diverse audience of student voices. This proposal will also create many opportunities, including further board integration into the district. We also believe that this proposal will be incredibly effective due primarily to the design of the council, which helps ensure that a variety of voices are heard in the policymaking process. We look forward to collaborating with the board to help make this proposal a reality. Thank you for your time.
Do any of the board members have questions for our students?
How did this idea start?
That's a loaded question. So I had kind of been thinking of it around September time, and I was like, this would be really cool if we had a student voice on the Board of Education. It wasn't any specific incident or specific issue. I just thought, we had so many things happening in the district, whether that was masking or things in the past that I think just were really integral to have a student voice in, and I saw a need for that. I talked with Dr. Marshausen and just kind of pitched the idea to him, and he said, get a few other kids to help you, and you're going to pitch it on the 24th, and we were like, all right, cool. So here we are.
Thank you.
Will is on the superintendent's advisory committee, so he's had some interaction, and I think that I've said this before, that committee is one of the most valuable committees for me because you get to hear right from incredibly articulate, smart young people who are the ones who are living what's happening in our schools. So when he came and said, hey, I'd like to try this, yeah, go. Might as well give it a pitch, right?
I just want to say that I appreciate all of the work and effort that you put into the presentation, and for you to come here and speak your mind in front of the board and Dr. Marshausen and this audience is quite impressive.
Yes, thank you guys for coming. I was really excited. I've been looking forward to this. I think I got to meet you in December, and so I've been looking forward to this presentation. I just have two questions. Will you just start out with just juniors?
So yes. Right now, if we were to get this proposal approved, what we would start with is 4 juniors, so essentially the 4 of us. And then starting next school year, we would have 4 new juniors come onto the board, and we would count as the 4 seniors.
Are you guys all from different home schools?
Yes, I am from Kaufman. Lydia's from, she's a full IB diploma student, so we're counting her as our Emerald campus representative. Ishan is from Jerome, and Will is from Scioto.
Okay. And then, first of all, this is amazing. You guys should have been running like campaigns for all of us. I think this is incredible. But how are you going to decide what are the hot topic issues in all of the schools and kind of hear all of your student body voices?
Right, absolutely. So I think it's a great question. For us, mainly, we have our student report is what we are mainly going off of here. We have a bunch of ideas and proposals that we've drawn up and just kind of thought through at ourselves for how this whole proposal and this student member on the board would look like. So as a part of that, we have, with the 8 people on the council, or 4, if we're just starting off with us 4, we would have monthly meetings once before the Board of Education meeting, and then we would all attend the Board of Education meetings. But in the student report, this is where all 4 or 8 of us would come together, and we would say to the council what we've heard and what we personally believe needs to be said and heard by the board.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
So a couple of follow-up questions as well. So you were proposing 1 representative would be really a seat at the table at the board meetings representing the student council?
Yes.
And are you aware, have you researched this and found any other districts around Central Ohio that have something similar in place?
I know a lot of different districts across the country that have this. When I pitched the idea to Dr. Marshausen, he mentioned that he had a representative on their board in Loveland, Ohio. And, I think just doing a lot of research, I reached out to a couple different people that were on boards, including one in Maryland, and just different people to see what the position looked like, and even just doing some research from articles that said, okay, well, this is what it looks like in this district, this is what the process looks like, and just kind of weighing the differences and deciding what we wanted it to be like in Dublin, just to make it unique and as efficient and effective as possible.
All right. Thank you. I think everyone did a fantastic job with the presentation. Thank you for coming this evening. I don't know if any other board members have additional comments or questions.
No, I think probably back to Dr. Marshausen and where do we go from here? We've obviously had a little bit of conversation and agenda review about this. Very impressive. I imagine that around the table that there's at least support to move forward with additional discussion amongst the 5 of us. Where do you see the best way to facilitate this next?
I think if you and Mr. Melody and I talk about some options and then we have a discussion at the next board meeting with all of the board members in terms of what our options would be. If you guys would like to be here at the next board meeting, that would be great. And then that would be the legislative process. And then from there, we can hopefully stick to their timeline and have some things together by March. So if that would work, that we could bounce around some ideas and then discuss that as a board on the 15th.
Yes, I think it's an aggressive timeline, but it's very well thought out and laid out. I think we can support having this back on the agenda for a board discussion on our next scheduled meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Ireland, you get to follow them.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you, everybody, for having me. To the new board members, I'm Tom Ireland. I'm the president of Dublin Building Systems, a family commercial construction company that's been in Dublin for over 50 years. And I'm the Dublin Schools representative for the Tolles Career and Technical Center. So been that this is my 4th year of doing that. You all have my report in your package, and just wanted to go over a few highlights. This time for Tolles is, it's all about enrollment for next school year. And right now we have, and actually, if for the old board members, if you remember last year at this time, I was saying the highest number we've ever had. Well, we beat it. We've had the highest number of applications, 644 for tolls to be on the campus this year, which 157 of those are from Dublin City Schools, which is the highest number we've ever had. Currently, just to give you an example, currently we have 130 students that go to our campus each day. So we're very excited about that. We're trying to close those deals, make all those students come. It's we're having to adjust some things. We're actually talking about doing some additions to some old spaces in the buildings to accommodate this. So it's brought on some issues, but they're good issues and good problems that we're having. So we're looking forward to that. Other thing that I wanted to highlight, I've mentioned before, adult education that Tolles provides has been a struggle. We actually have hired a new director of adult education, Kevin Pranger, who came from Columbus City Schools. Was there for, I believe, 15 years, working in the adult education for Columbus City Schools. And he actually just started last week, so he's getting his feet wet and getting around to meet everybody, and so we're very excited for that. One of the other things that continues to grow is our internship program, our 2x2 cohort program that we call it. And for those of you that are new, Tolles does a 2-week on and a 2-week off internship program. So basically a student will spend 2 weeks at a internship out at a business, and then 2 weeks at Tolles. During that time, we have another student that is flip-flopping with them, so the businesses continually have a student at their business, so it helps them. And currently, right now, we have 82 students that are placed with businesses, and that number, we just added 5 in the month of January, so it just continues to rise, and the students are taking advantage of this, and we're getting great feedback from our business partners, so it's been a great program for us. And finally, the Tolles has been hosting some, we're calling them town advocacy meetings. We've been doing them through Zoom lately. We just recently, last week, had a Zoom meeting with Steve Stivers, who is the president of the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. We invite all of our business partners that we have to be on these Zoom meetings, and it gives them an opportunity to talk and ask questions and interact with certain people. And mainly our topics have been around workforce development, and so it's been a great program. Next Friday, the 4th, we're actually having the Ohio House Speaker Bob Culp be on that, and so we're hoping that it's going to be a very well attended Zoom meeting. And actually at the back of my packet, there is a flyer on that. And if you'd like to join us, we welcome everybody. There's a link on there to register for that. So I appreciate it and be glad to answer any questions anybody has.
With the growth in enrollment, is there, what's driving it? I'm sure as a board you guys have discussed, is it programming? Is it just a change in?
Scott, I think it's partially programming. I think personally, a lot of it is just, I think the attitude towards career technical education is changing in this country. And we've always said the hardest person that we have to sell is the parents. We can, a kid will say, hey, I want to go to Tolles, or I want to do this. The parents are the ones that will say, no, you're not going to do that. I think parents are starting to come around and understand that this isn't the vocational education that was back 30 years ago or 40 years ago when I was in high school. And, it's becoming, these kids that are coming out of Tolles have credentials, they're getting well-paying jobs right out of high school. And I think just it's kind of snowballing, and with our issues of workforce development in the state of Ohio, that's helping us, because I think it's on top of mind. And when anytime you open up a business magazine or even the Dispatch, there's something on there. And the big announcement last week of Intel coming, where are we going to get these 3,000 employees to start out and 10,000, eventually for that. So it's, that we've got to solve that issue for Ohio to make these things work.
All right, thank you. In looking at the list of, enrollment, I mean, it looks very well balanced. Obviously, nursing, pre-nursing is huge right now.
Pre-nursing
so
is becoming one of the larger classes, and if we are limited right now with our contract with our teachers is 25 students per class, and that's we host 2 classes each day, so it's 50 students total. So we're working on how to get around some of those issues and add more classes, and that's looking at the building and what changes we can do to add more classes to accommodate that. But yeah, there's the pre-nursing, cosmetology, engineering, construction is been at the highest it's ever been. So a lot of those programs are really going well.
That's great to hear.
I was going to ask, what are the newer, where do you see yourselves going in terms of adding additional opportunities for students? That's my first question. And my second one is with regard to the town advocacy meetings. Is that where you hope to kind of dispel the maybe hesitancy among parents?
I'll answer that one first. I think hopefully, yes, that would help, but it's really based around a lot of our business partners, and we have quite a few business advisory members, because each program, like as an example, Dublin City Schools has a business advisory council for the whole school district. We have one for each program, and there's probably 20 to 25 different companies that are part of that. And it's to reach out to them and to allow those businesses to have a voice with certain individuals like Steve Stivers or Bob Culp that they never would have if they just tried to call them up and talk to them. And again, it's trying to solve a lot of the workforce development issues that the state is facing. So I hope that answers your question. And then the second one is, we're constantly talking about new programs and trying to look at what is the next thing coming up. What are companies, and again, our relationship with these businesses that we have, they are letting us know, this is the type of kids we need. This is the type of employee we need. It's manufacturing, it's welding. Amazingly, our welding students are the ones that when they go out of tolls and they have their certifications, they're making, I hate to say it, $80,000 to $90,000 a year when they're 18 years old, and just right out of that, and we can't provide enough. And we run into problems with that because we don't have enough equipment and space to teach more students that trade. So we're just constantly talking to all our business partners, listening to people, talking to people about what's the next program. What do we need to be looking down the road? And one of the big ones that we're starting to look at right now is in the IT, but security, programming, and that type of thing, and how we can handle some of that.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for what you're doing. The sophomores were all very excited, I think, to come and visit. And I don't know what you're doing, but this year felt like it was extra exciting when scheduling time came out, and the hard decision between picking, like, if they're going to go to tolls or, Dublin obviously has lots of classes. And I just think what you guys are doing, it's great to see your enrollment numbers. And I hope that continues to rise because I think you have an amazing program.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we've got a good team, administrative team that's really putting a lot of effort into this, and they're excited, and we're going well right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update. And it is Board Member Recognition Month, so thank you for representing Dublin and our community.
Sure.
And
my
full
pleasure.
board. So thank you.
As you know, I enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Mr. Baker for a communications update, communications plan.
Thank you, Mr. Melody. Good evening, Dr. Marshausen, Mr. Kern, members of the board. My pleasure this evening to present an update on where we are with our communications program. Before I get started, at your place, I have left in this black folder a granular document that kind of outlines the day-to-day in a very the weekly, the monthly type of things that we have to do the rest of this calendar year of 2022, and also some printed publications that I will, go ahead, Eric, that I will talk about here in a couple of minutes. So I'm going to give you a snapshot of where we are as a communications department, of where we are as a district, the types of things we're communicating, the tools that we use. I want to start with communications as a team sport. I am blessed to have the best communications team in the state of Ohio. Eric Starkey, who's right over here, every board meeting. Tanya Ewart, who's right back here. Kieran Grady, Kelly Ram's right back here. This is the best comm team in the state of Ohio, and I say that unequivocally. I'm proud to work with them every day. We work as a team for you, and we'll continue to do so. One of the things that we really focus on as a team is who are we talking to? We have a lot of audiences here in Dublin City Schools, as we have seen and continue to see at board meetings and elsewhere. This is a very diverse community. Students are our audience, of course parents, of course staff, and then we get to the community at large, right? And that can mean a lot of different things. We have a business community. We have our partners like the City of Dublin, like the Dublin Chamber of Commerce. There are senior citizens, and our single biggest audience is our non-parents. At any given time, 65 to 70% of our community does not have kids in school. That's true at any given time. I know it's hard to believe when you go by the soccer fields on Avery Park on a given Saturday morning in the fall or the spring. And they are our taxpayers and our voters too, and so they are a big part of our audience, and we are cognizant of them at all times. Very fortunate here. A lot of the time, people will come to me and say, Doug, how do we get the word out on something? That's the easiest part of my job. I've got a lot of tools in the toolbox, and we've talked about these already, even with you new board members since you've been on. So I won't spend a lot of time on numbers. I'll just go through, we have a reach. Our reach is very large. I'll go through our social media tools real quick. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Those have been our constants for almost a decade. I think we started with Twitter in about 2010. We're up to 14,000 plus followers now. Continues to be the daily news feed for a lot of people, and so won't be moving away from that anytime soon. The growth continues, kind of a steady slow like this. I've always wondered, when are we going to hit a ceiling, an audience ceiling here in Dublin in terms of social media growth? We're not there yet. I don't know when exactly we will be, but we're not there. Email continues to be important. Principals send out a Friday update. The communications department sends out a Monday update. I know there's a lot of parents that rely on those. Of course, our website remains our hub. And then the last row here, I intentionally put a couple of our newer tools and one of our older ones in the same line on purpose in terms of why still use any print at all in 2021, and I'll touch on that. We have a new podcast that Dr. Marshausen does, and we have a Dublin City Schools app, and all of those are working for us pretty well. But the one thing I wanted to address on this slide is sometimes people will say, I can't keep up with this. Can you put everything in one place? This is too many. And we're not asking you to keep up with it. We're asking you to pick your favorite, right? If you follow us on Twitter, you're not going to miss very much. If you read your emails, you're not going to miss very much. If you go to the district's website, you'll be fine. So pick your favorite comm tool, and don't worry about missing anything. We are cognizant of analytics in the communications department. And again, we pay close attention to the numbers. If those start to flatten or go down, we know we'll have something to work on. But it's more than that. The analytics can tell us about behaviors of our audience, when's the best time to post on Facebook, but also our own. For example, on this graph right here, this shows us our publishing behavior on Twitter. I believe the red is published links, the yellow is published text, and the blue is published photos. And so what we like to do is use that exact combination to drive people to our website and other websites where there is information. So just I think it's interesting to keep track of those things and important. Communication sometimes can be hard to have data-driven results. We do focus groups from time to time. Those can be expensive. You know, the number one source of school information from the last focus group we did about 7 years ago was other people. So what does that mean? It's when you run into someone at Kroger or whomever, and they say, well, I heard they were going to. And so all we can do is have as much correct information out there as possible, right? As much factual information. So that's our focus. Mention the podcast. This has been a success so far. We are 4,079 downloads. Mrs. Schwanke is the #1 ratings getter with her initial podcast with Dr. Marshausen, so thank you, Jen. These new ones come out every Monday, and so any suggestions for topics are always welcome. We're trying to reach our audience based on their interests, and so we'll continue, but we are glad we have a new communications tool that people find interesting. An old communications tool, print. Why do any of this in 2021? Well, it goes back to 65 to 70% that don't have kids in school are less likely to follow us on Twitter, don't get our emails, are not engaged with us electronically necessarily. So 4 times a year, we still do a printed newsletter. We just started mailing it recently in the last 2 or 3 issues. We had some reliability issues with our delivery system, and again, we have too far of a reach to have that. And so we just started to mail this into houses, and I think that's been much appreciated. In your packet is the 2021 quality profile. That is available online and also in print. And again, this is what I call a piece of collateral. If somebody were to walk into Emerald Campus, which is also central office, tomorrow morning and said, can you hand me a document that encapsulates what is this district about? It's the quality profile. It's just a one piece that is nice for us to have, give them to the realtors, have them at the library and the chamber and places like that. Our mission, those are some of the tools, those are some of the how-tos. What are we saying is our big thing. We want to tell stories. We want to tell the stories of the students who just presented. We want to tell the stories of the state champion from Eversole. We want to tell the stories of our students and staff, the interactions daily, the things that they do to enhance each other's lives. And so one of our emphasis the second semester here of 2021-22 is I'm very proud to say we're working with our new Communications Academy and some students there to go out and do even more videos. And these will be 40 to 60-second videos that tell these really personal stories of success and maybe of just human interest. Because we've been talking about COVID a long time. We've been talking about masks and those things a long time. Those things have to be done. We understand that. That's part of the communications office's job. We also need to tell these stories because these stories haven't gone away in the last 2 years. And so we're going to get back to talking about these things. So that's our overarching mission. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the media and public records. These are just things that take a lot of bandwidth because they come in droves. And again, it is part of two-way communication, however. It is part of transparency and our commitment to transparency. And so when these things come in, we respond. Briefly, talking about this year's communications goals. When this board and Dr. Marshausen and district leadership decide when the next time the district might be on the ballot, when that would be, we will prepare a levy cycle comm plan backing up from that date because there are many specific things you need to do along the way. And so we've already started to do some of that work based on preliminary discussions, and we will continue to do so. One of the things we really wanted to do this year is return to communications norms in spite of the world not being normal quite yet. And so I think we've done a good job with that. We plan a lot of our events in the spring. We think dodgeball's coming back, our job fair's coming back, and so we're moving forward with some things, and again, in spite of things not being quite normal yet. And so that was goal 2. There is goal 2. Again, this is more of a future goal as Dr. Marshausen and this board formulate district goals for next school year and beyond and deal with the redistricting in front of us. My department will be right there to help communicate those things to our community in lockstep with you all. I mentioned the podcast. That was one of our goals. And finally, I don't want to be remiss about internal communications. We have almost 2,000 employees, and they are frontline communicators, all of them. If it's like any company, if you go to one of our schools and get one answer and call a central office person and get another answer, it hurts our brand, right? And with this many employees, it's hard to be on the same page with talking points. And that is one of our jobs as the communications department, is to try to get as many of us on the same page as possible. So that's one of our big goals for this school year. Briefly, the Alumni Association, we're very fortunate. Not many K-12 organizations have an alumni association, and we do. Keyburn does a great job with the Hall of Fame event, the 50-year class, some other events. She's also a development director. We have something new called the Dublin Legacy Fund that is just getting off the ground that already has quite a bit of money in the coffers. This spring, we'll be issuing scholarships for the first time, so look for some more publicity on that. I want to close with this, and it's actually apropos to what happened, at the beginning of our meeting tonight where we had a discussion. We, Dr. Marshausen and myself and a lot of the other administrative team, we spend a lot of time in the situation in the conversational situation we were in earlier tonight, talking to our key communicators and our PTO presidents and the Business Advisory Council and the Teacher Advisory Council, Student Advisory Council, and PERC. I could go on. Why do we spend so much time having those conversations? Because a lot of the time we can achieve greater understanding quicker through a half hour of conversation than we can through 40 email strings or direct messages or tweet after tweet. And so we believe in talking to each other. And so we're going to continue to do that and as we go forward. So, questions? Thank you.
It appears you did an outstanding job presenting the information, so no questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for everything you do, and thank you the entire team for the communications on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Now we have public participation for items on the agenda. We do have one person signed up for public participation on the agenda. Ms. Weber.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I read that tonight's agenda includes the approval of the 23-24 calendar. My son's senior year. His first day will be Wednesday, August 16th, 2023. His first 3-day weekend a few weeks later. His first 4-day weekend will be October 20th to the 23rd, dates that will hopefully involve college visits. Hope. It's a powerful word, isn't it? And yet, we don't know what the future will hold. Will COVID become endemic like we hope? Will there be a time where masks truly become unnecessary? For my husband and I, we hope that our son will be able to go to college visits and celebrate all that comes with being a senior. He has been experiencing neurological symptoms related to his having COVID in December. It was mild, typical for the vaccinated infected with
Excuse
Omicron.
me, Ms. Weber, it's for issues on the agenda, so you need to keep your comments to the calendar
Right, this is
topic.
related to the calendar. And I will circle back to the calendar. Our pediatrician does not know what has been causing what I describe as episodes. We are in uncharted waters, she says. Could it be related to blood clots, an issue with the chemosensory system similar to what causes loss of taste or smell? We have developed a health plan with Dublin Kaufman, whose administration and clinic has been extremely responsive, and for that I am thankful. The cost of a potential emergency room visit paired with specialist visits was part of the discussion I had with my husband this morning. The end of the debate came with my husband said with tears in his eyes, "Jen, this is his life," meaning we will figure out the cost later. End of debate. But back to the calendar. On November 7th of my son's senior year, Mr. Valentine and Mr. Melody will be up for re-election. I'm reminded of the election cycle from this year, an election that rendered all COVID decisions free from accountability at a time when difficult decisions are what was needed. When school resumed, there were no masks mandated for anyone in high school upon return. High
Ms.
school
Weber,
students.
do you have a comment on the calendar itself? All your comments seem to be related to COVID.
I will just say that he will head into his last semester at the end of May. We reflect on what has been exceptional, his working with his intervention specialist to overcome obstacles, the wonderful teachers who saw his potential, and the teachers who are ready to call me if my son has another episode. I will reflect on those who watched out for him on top of everything else they had going on, and try not to think of those who were too tired to stand up for students like him.
Okay, thank you. All right. We have Board President and Board of Education comments. The one item we do have on the agenda related to the board is our committee assignments for the year. These were distributed earlier in the week, and Dr. Marshausen has a slide outlining those committee assignments. So I don't know if it's probably a little early to have any updates from a committee assignment, but if anyone has any comments or questions on the committee assignments, please feel free to bring them up.
Actually, I do have kind of a little update. Although it's not official, but I did attend the Dublin Education Foundation's quarterly meeting on, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday of last week. But I was so impressed with the teachers and their grant proposals and all of the wonderful work that they're doing in our schools. It's just amazing what they can come up with. And I'm a former board member on the Dublin Education Foundation. I'll also say that we've had students who also have had really great, innovative programs that they've come up with. But this past week, we got to see teachers who are incorporating drumming at DEP and a reading garden, an outdoor classroom at Glacier Ridge, I think. Then at Hopewell, they had an idea to have a design challenge across the entire school. Just so many great ideas, and I just want to say thank you to Dublin Education Foundation for helping to fund some of these great ideas. And I know this is not time to put things on the agenda, but I would love if, when some of these programs get off the ground, if we could have them come in and do a demonstration of the drumming or presentations or some of the programs that they've done. So that's my little update.
Thank you, and definitely we will make sure that those awardees have the opportunity to come share with us. And to Mr. Baker's point earlier, when you look at some of the liaisons to the different committees, one of the things that I've asked this new board to do, in addition to all of their time at meetings and other committees, is each of the board members is on one of those now advisory groups as a liaison. So we have a board member who will be joining our PTO presidents, who will be coming to our senior citizens advisory, who will come to our student advisory, who will come to STAC, and who will come to key communicators, because we have so many amazing groups, and I think it's important when we hear from those groups that it's not just me always speaking, that to give those updates from what our students say at student advisory, to have a board member there also allows for that communication, which is critical. So thank you all for your willingness to, when time permits, join us at those different engagement meetings. Between those 5 groups, we're probably talking 200 people who are highly active and highly engaged in our community and have a lot of opinions on how things are going. So it's one of the joys is getting that input and hearing what's going on, and I appreciate all of your time.
Okay, thank you, and I think it's great when we can have the students come participate at the board meetings and see presentations from them. So that was a great suggestion. We could, now's probably not the time. We used to go to buildings and we used to rotate around, and when we went to buildings, we saw kids and we saw teachers, and because of various factors, we've kind of become grounded when we're here. So we may need to bring the kids here in order to have that interaction. Okay. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Marshausen now for superintendent comments.
It's that time of year, and it's interesting that students now have the superintendent's email at will. And there have been a lot of winter weather questions in the past 24 hours. So just kind of to review, and we have 3 new board members, just so that you know. Mr. Stark and I are early morning communicators. We have our transportation staff out by 4 a.m. Our maintenance guys are out by 4 a.m. getting parking lots and sidewalks cleared, getting buses warmed up. We have a group that comes in and when it's this cold and starts up all those buses and traverses different parts of our community on their way in, so that we get early morning road condition updates. By 4:30, I'm getting texts, calls, conversations. We also talk to the city maintenance workers. We have the city police if necessary. We have meteorologists at the weather stations who I can call and ask, when's this going to end? What's going to happen? So the meteorologists are at our superintendents. We have our go-to folks there. And yes, we have a group of area superintendents who are calling each other on early mornings because no one wants to be the district that's out on their own. In fact, normally we have the conversation, who's going to be the first domino to fall. And if one of the dominoes falls in a like district, and as I told some students today, what's happening in Union County or Marion County probably isn't indicative of the decisions that we're going to make in Dublin, Ohio. When I hear everyone's closed today, my everyone's closed are our friends in Worthington and Hilliard and Olentangy and Southwestern and Upper Arlington. Those are our everyone is closed. So we're on it early, and we are watching. Now, one huge thank you, and I'm the new guy, and I'm not sure everybody realizes this. The city of Dublin's road crews are amazing. And having lived in other communities, wow. When we talked today and I said, hey, I'm a little concerned, it's lunchtime and the roads are a little bit sketchy right now, they said, don't worry, by the time school ends, we'll get you cleaned up. And in the city of Dublin, by the time we started running those roads, all but the courts were cleaned up. So our city road crew is amazing. So we talk to them. Our bus drivers are amazing. During this meeting, I've actually had an email conversation with a young man who's concerned about his driving to one of our high schools. Mr. Scott has already informed him what bus he can take and where his bus stop is if he doesn't feel safe driving to school tomorrow. So we have amazing bus drivers. And for our kids who are concerned about the roads, we spend millions of dollars in transportation a year to provide buses. So if you don't want to drive to school tomorrow, we'll get you there. 2-hour delays are possible but highly unlikely. And early dismissals, other than what we did today, is highly unlikely. Now, I don't consider today an early dismissal. We let our high schools out 10 minutes early, and that was simply so that our buses could get to our elementaries near on time, because we knew we would be a little slower running through those neighborhoods. And for our elementary parents, those kids being closer to on time is probably more important than your high school kid having 10 minutes more time to get home. So that's why that was made today. I also got the question in an email from a student last week that it's really cold today, and when do we close school for cold? Generally speaking, in the Columbus area, and this happened in my career a couple times, probably 4 or 5 years ago, minus 20 wind chill is that time when we would start looking at closing for cold. So minus 20 Fahrenheit, we haven't even been in that ballpark yet. So my message to those young people who contacted me was bundle up, that we think it's important that you're in school. We've always thought it's important that you're at school, but with missing so much time last year with hybrid and working Wednesdays and all those different things, if we can safely get you in with a little bit more time and a little bit more safety, that's what we're going to do. So 5:30. If you don't hear anything by 5:30, 5:45 at the latest, get out of bed, scrape off the car, and we're going to come to school. I'm excited to announce a partnership between the Graduation Alliance, ESC of Central Ohio, Governor DeWine and Lieutenant Governor Husted and their offices, and the Dublin City School District. We are the pilot district that is going to start looking at and interviewing students who either did not go to college or who enrolled in college but didn't finish. So we're going to start with the class of 2018. And we're going to, the Graduation Alliance is going to try to get in touch with via a phone survey, a text message survey, or an email survey, all of the students in the Dublin class of 2018 who either didn't enroll in college or who enrolled and didn't finish in 4 to 5 years. About 85% of the kids 85% of this graduating class went to college. Less than 65% of the class finished in 5 years. So we've got, and this is, Dublin's numbers are as good as anyone else's. In Franklin County, it's Dublin and UA. We send the highest percentage of our students to college. We have more students finished than anywhere else, but we still have about 20% of our kids who enroll in college don't finish in 4 to 5 years. We want to know why. We want to ask our students who didn't go to college, are you happy and are you successful? Some of them are going to tell us yes. Some of them had a plan when they graduated and they entered the workforce. They had gone to tolls. They had skills. They were ready to roll. Some of them may say, I had no idea what I was getting into, and we want to know why. For our kids who went and didn't finish college, we want to know why. Were you prepared academically? This is a statewide project that we're the first ones. A lot of people are going to be following. So we're excited about this work. We will be posting information on our website to ensure that if you have a child who is a graduate in the class of 2018, they're not being spammed or punked or any of those things. It's legit, and we really want to know the answers. So this is going to yield some really great information. When asked, what is the sign of a successful school district? It's not the third grade reading score. It's not the ACT score. I don't know anyone who is ever successful because of their ACT score. Where are our kids 4 and 5 years after they graduate? Did we prepare students to be successful in whatever their personal path is? Because this is a personalized education we strive to provide to each and every child. And when as parents we think about what we want for our children, we want them to be successful after they graduate and whatever's next. So this will help yield some information in places that maybe we have gaps. And I'll just throw in here and I sent this to the board on Friday. You talk about the power of what we do in school. Jeremy Bradstreet sent us a link to Kaufman's YouTube channel, and where he's interviewing former Dublin Kaufman band students and what they've taken away. And they're 19, 20-minute videos. I don't know if you've got a chance to watch some of them. Incredibly powerful when you talk about the impact that we have and that a program has on success. And I sent that to a former colleague of mine in Hilliard, because the band director at Hilliard Bradley, Andy Rice, was a former band director here and who worked with Mr. Bradstreet. He said, I couldn't stop, I watched them all. And he said, that's the impact that we get to have on kids. We get to make a difference. So we want to know, did someone make a difference in these kids' lives? Did they make them successful? And we get to do that. And for anyone who hasn't had a chance, search on the YouTube channel, and I think Doug's going to be pushing some of these things out through our communications department. Great stuff, and Mr. Bradstreet said he's got more coming. So really cool things coming. And it's what do we do to make and help students be successful in what's next? We are in the midst of scheduling. Scheduling ends at our high schools in the next week or two. Student schedules will be processed. We will start looking at staffing. What are our courses? I am going to ask Christy Vinny and Lori Marple and Aaron Schulteis to come share with you in February some of the things that we're doing with online courses at the high school and how they're getting folded in to our course of studies and our offerings. We are also getting ready to open kindergarten registration on the 15th of February. And that's why when Deputy Superintendent Schwanke gives the report later, that's why we need to know where everybody's going to go. We will be putting out a survey for DCS virtual students to see who wants to stay in DCS virtual, and then we've got to start to adjust our staffing levels through the entire process. We are growing. We need to find places to put our kiddos, and we need to make sure that we have the right staff in place to be able to do that. Okay, for the board, from a discussion standpoint, from our public participation, 3 simple questions that I like to ask about any program. What went well, what didn't go well, and what would you like to see us improve for February? So I'm open to suggestions from the 5 of you. 6 if Mr. Kern wants to jump in.
The public
I'll just-
participation.
oh,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead, Mrs.
I'm
Rigby.
sorry. What went well? I think the back and forth, the ability for people to come up and kind of collectively be in an area as opposed to standing up there with a 3-minute timer and have some dialogue is invaluable. The tricky part is how do you accommodate everyone who came tonight? And I know that we didn't meet that goal, so that would be something going forward, you know, how we evaluate who wants to speak, the numbers that want to speak, and how do we make sure that everybody at least is heard. But all in all, I thought it was great for the first go-around.
Yeah, I like the option to talk back. I forgot I don't think my brain's working today. No, I would love to see like an automatic, kind of how we put the timer up. Like if I know I've said this to you, I'm going to say it now. If we could do like a randomized name drawing or somebody gets a number, and then that way it's just kind of like, it's very random. Does that make any sense? I'm just thinking it's kind of like fair for order. And honestly, we could probably open it up for 2 hours and it probably isn't enough time. There's part of me that wants more time and I don't know how to make that a real thing, so.
When we start having neighborhood coffees, you're more than welcome to join me again.
Okay. I'm going to take you up on that.
Feel free.
I would probably echo what Diana said, just figuring out how we best go about making it fair and equitable. I mean, if there's going to be reoccurring folks that are coming and speaking to us, they should obviously have an opportunity, but for folks who are new, they should feel comfortable and know that they're going to get their chance.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have to make sure that people who come or sign up have an opportunity to speak, and also that it's fair time-wise, that everyone has the same amount of time to express themselves. Also, I'm not sure about the sitting in the middle here. I don't know, that might turn some people off, just getting, center stage here. I don't know. Some people don't mind the attention. Other people might feel a little discomfort at coming up here. Yeah.
I thought about potentially putting chairs, since we're going to take a break to kind of rearrange, if we put chairs on the other side of the table where Jen and Chris and Tanya are sitting, and we just kind of went over and sat where everyone else is sitting and said, let's just have a like if it got us out of this and we kind of went over to them, is that something? And then we could bring those. So we'll work on that, and I know Eric and Scott Gill and our team do the room setup, so.
Yeah, like if we're gonna sit here, I didn't sit in the middle, but I felt awkward. So I can't imagine what it felt like for the middle people. So like either they're gonna stand at the podium or we gotta move because it feels weird.
Yeah, I think, I said when we came, if we sat over where Cheryl and folks are, if we had like somehow chairs over there where we were in a more relaxed conversational atmosphere, because I think that's what we want.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed. And we talked about it very briefly at the beginning of the meeting. How should we interact and get that layout? So we can definitely take that going forward. I thought it was great having the dialogue and being able to have some back and forth communication. I do agree that it wasn't perfect, but we can still continue to build on it. You know, that we do need to come up with a way to hear from more people kind of randomly, or just make sure that one person's not monopolizing the whole conversation for the time we have allotted. But it was nice not having that 3-minute timer just to cut people off.
So we'll keep going. Try to be better next month.
So on that note, the next public participation for items not on the agenda is at the second meeting in February?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
There is on the agenda tonight approval for the 23, 24, and 24, 25 calendars. You might say, why are you approving calendars this far out? Number one, it allows us to get the shot locked up so we don't run into a situation like we did a couple years ago with graduations on different days. It allows us to have the graduations on our Saturdays and get that locked and in place. Also, with people having seniors in the class of 23 and 24 and 24 and 25, if you have family coming from out of town, you now will know when graduation day is going to be. You also know when spring break's going to be, when Christmas is going to be, and winter vacation is going to be, and it allows those vacations to kind of all be out ahead of everybody. So that's why my intent would be as superintendent sometime next year around this time to have the 25-26 calendar, to always stay a couple years out. You would be surprised at the number of schools who are fighting for those dates now at the shot. And if you can keep those in line, that really helps. Two other things that I do not have slides for. There's been a request from multiple members of the board to move the first meeting in February from the 14th to the 15th. I know there's a family event on Monday the 14th, and I think we've all said that we can make that date work. So for the public, you will see a notice from Mr. Kern's office moving the February business meeting from Monday, February 14th to Tuesday, February 15th. And then finally, and Mr. Boney will touch on this in his report, a huge thank you to the Ohio State College of Nursing. Our nurses have needed help. They've needed support. They've been heroes. They've been amazing. Even with the changes that we're making, they were busy before COVID, and they are incredibly busy now. And I reached out to Dr. Bernadette Melnick, who is the dean of the College of Nursing, and said, is there any way we could get nursing students to come be clinic assistants and help us with making sure that students are masked if they come back, making sure that we are getting the letters out, making sure that there's someone in every clinic at various times. And we had over 25 people reach out, almost all of them from the College of Nursing. There are 15 people on the agenda for approval tonight, all associated with Ohio State's College of Nursing, all with some medical training and medical background, that for anywhere from 5 to 15, 20 hours a week will be able to provide assistance to our nurses. And it's great when you have a partner like Ohio State that you can reach out to and say, we need some help. And it also gives those nursing students and medical students some opportunities to get some field experience and earn some extra money in a field that they want to go into. So special thanks to Dr. Melnick and the team at Ohio State. I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, don't hear any questions. We will turn it over to Mr. Kern for a treasurer update.
Yes, just a few quick things. I gave everybody on your table is some light reading, is the June 30th, 2021, comprehensive annual financial report. This is a part of it wrapped up our year in our reporting. This is on the GAAP basis of reporting, so that's there, even though we basically run on 365 days a year on a cash basis. But that's that. That's wrapped up our audit. We have a clean audit, again, with no comments, no findings. So we really take pride in that accountability to our taxpayers and to our public and everyone in the district. And I'd like to thank everyone. It's just not us, it's our buildings, it's our other departments who help us between whether it's our procurement process, if it's revenue collection, whatever it may be, those internal controls, we have to rely on other people throughout the district. And we're very thankful that we're able to follow along, and we're good with that. So like I said, we'll take pride in that. We should be receiving the Auditor of State Award. I don't know. I don't think they're coming back to meetings yet to present the award, but if they do, we'll have them in again. Along that lines, we'll be also real quick as part of a lot that's going on. I know Mr. Stark has mentioned before the Jerome additions and the Kaufman envelope project and everything that's going on with that, but we also have to issue the debt related to that. And that is coming up, but we'll actually tomorrow, Dr. Marshausen, myself, Mr. Melly, and Mr. Valentine, will be meeting with Standard & Poor's, or S&P, tomorrow to go over our bond rating, and we should have the rating within the next week and a half after tomorrow. That's very important. We are currently the S&P rated AAA, which is the highest rating, which is allow us to have lower borrowing cost when we do that. So. It's very important, the comprehensive annual financial report, all our reporting, the December financial report that you see on tonight, a lot of information goes to them in that discussion, and even other stuff. We talked about redistricting and enrollment. They have a lot of questions when it comes to that. So look forward to that tomorrow afternoon. On this evening's agenda, we do have two items. We have the student activity purpose clauses, and you may ask, why is that coming through my office? As you see, Deputy Superintendent Schwanke does approve them from the academic standpoint, but also we do have to, especially if they're raising funds, to do that, we also have to sign account numbers. But everything along the purpose clause, we use that purpose clause to ensure that in working with the buildings that they're spending and doing stuff as part of that activity. So that's why it does come through me, because we have to do some of those financial things that relate to it. And then we have also the approval of the December financial report I talked about. As you can see, as we do, we focus on the general fund as is our operational fund. That is our biggest fund. As from a monetary and size standpoint, we are on track at this point in revenues and expenditures, under 1% difference. Right? So we feel really good about that, with revenues exceeding estimates and under for expenditures. So that's something we'll provide every month for you to approve. And as we continue to go along, and just a reminder too, like I always say, is that does the match what our November 5-year forecast approval is, and then we'll adjust at the end of the year for the May update. So any questions on treasurer action items?
I just had a quick question on the student committees. Are they 100% funded, self-funded, or do they receive any resources from us as a district?
They are self-funded, so they'll raise fund. They'll do fundraisers at the building, wherever it may be. For it, we do not provide any local taxpayer money or anything like that. It's all student and working with the advisor, activity driven. So.
Okay, and my second question, maybe for Mrs. Schwanke, the moderator, is that I saw in every case here it's a staff member. Is that always the case? Is it ever allowed to be a parent in lieu of a staff member or in addition to? How does that work in terms of a moderator?
Great question. For a district-sponsored activity, it has to be a staff member. There are times that a parent does want to oversee a club, but that's not an option. I mean, that could be done at their own time in their own living room, but not using district resources. Yeah.
Okay. Item 7D, it is recommended by the treasurer that the Board of Education approve item 7B, the December 31st, 2022 financial report, and item 7C, the approval of the student activity purpose clauses. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Okay, please call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis,
Yes.
Mrs. Rigby,
Yes.
Mrs. De Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
and Mr. Melody.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Now we have an update from Mrs. Schwanke, Deputy Superintendent comments.
Okay, now let's talk about redistricting. Does this come up on its own, Eric? Okay, you've got it. All right, so we are here tonight because, as we all know, there has been a massive amount of growth in the very top northwest quadrant of our district. Residential growth has grown far beyond what our previous projections had indicated. If you were here in about 2019, 2020, we went through a massive redistricting process at that time using projections for growth that were the best guess, again, at that time. Since then, we have opened Abraham Depp Elementary School, and we have opened Eversole Run Elementary School. Depp is already at capacity, in fact, just a little bit over. Depp is actually using a classroom from Eversole to deal with some of the overflow, and enrollment at Eversole Run is projected to exceed capacity next school year, 23-24. So making some small changes to the boundaries now will actually alleviate that overcrowding and overuse of the facility. It really just pushes a larger conversation down the road a little bit. We are going to have to talk in the future about building another elementary school, maybe two, and building another middle school. That's for later when we talk about a levy and look at growth. Now, it's important to note that projections are not, in Dr. Marshausen's words, projections are not a promise. We can't tell. For those of you that lived in this community in 2008, we were intending to build an elementary school at that time. And then the changes in growth and the housing market, everything came to a screeching halt. And so that pushed building that elementary school quite a bit down the road. But here we are now, and the opposite is happening. Homes are coming up really faster than we would expect. Mr. Ersham likes to joke that he left school on May 24th of last year, and he looked left and he looked right, and there weren't all that many homes. And then when everybody came back August 17th, they had popped up in areas right near Eversole. So, excuse me, Depp. Before I go on, I do want to say that this has not been shared with our community yet. Only this administrative team and the principals affected have seen this. We wanted you to make sure that you saw it first. We do plan to go to the PTOs of the buildings that are affected and talk to those community members. The families, the specific families that are affected, we will reach out as a district, that communications team that we love so well, we'll reach out to them and let them know these changes are coming. So let's get to some specifics. This table, I know it's hard to read, this will be posted for you all, but you can see on the left-hand side of the table, that is where you have your square footage capacity, and then you have the projected enrollment. Those are students and seats. That's on the left-hand side of the table. On the right is our projected utilization of the facility. And you can see, if your eye can find that 22-23 school year, you can see that Abraham Depp is already at 118% capacity. This is just elementary school where I am right now. Anything in blue indicates a school that is under 80% utilization. Now, ideally, you would want all those numbers to say 100%, but that would indicate that there's always a constant feed of students. That's not actually how it works. So you can see that we do have room in a lot of our buildings. Now, one of the speakers tonight asked, are we going to move everybody? That's not our intent right now. It might be a reality down the road, 2 or 3 years, but that's not our intent right now. So you see the red area is all Depp. You see a little bit there at Deer Run, but that's just 105 and 109%, and it works itself out. So we're not going to worry about Deer Run. The neighborhood that we will be sending to Glacier Ridge, and as Dr. Marshausen indicated, in some cases back to Glacier Ridge, are these neighborhoods listed here, Mitchell Highlands and Woodbine Village. These would be for current K through 4th graders. Okay. This also includes the future subdivision. You all have read about the homestead at Scotts Farm that's projected to have 200 extra homes coming. And you'll see that the students impacted, about 80 students That would be for next year, current K through 4th graders. So another area that will be moving out of DEP will be this highlighted area here that will go to Penny, Dogwood at Jerome Road Village, and Kilburn Estates. And that gets us about 100 students out of DEP to create more space. Now, just to be clear, that isn't going to have enrollment go down at DEP. That's going to be filled up with new build students. Okay, here's a little before and after shot for you. The top graph is what I showed you earlier, and the bottom one, again, it just puts that red off a few years. We'll be at 100% capacity for the next couple years, and then that number starts to climb again. So it doesn't solve our problem long term. It just pushes it down until we can talk with our community about what our needs are long term. All right, let's talk about middle school and high school. Now, first, I'm going to talk about high school and get that out of the way. The numbers here projected, again, like I said before, it's students and seats on the left and projected utilization on the right. These numbers do include the 60,000 square feet we were putting on Jerome. So you'll see their capacity there is 2,400, and we'll be at full capacity at Jerome in 26, 27. And then those numbers continue to rise. And as Dr. Marshall has said repeatedly, we'll need to have a conversation about what we want the size we want our high schools to be. But what I want to highlight here is Eversole Run. You can see that those numbers are climbing very rapidly beginning in the 23-24 school year. And so by making some changes to students, we would put them to Carr Middle School, which you can see has space and actually is projected to diminish in enrollment. So that's why we will be moving these neighborhoods to Carr. Now, an important distinction here, I want to be very clear, that we are able, because it's not so much of an emergency at Eversole, we will be doing a phase-in for Eversole. So this is only current 5th graders for the 22-23 school year. And then the next year, we'll scoop up our current 4th graders, which of course then would be 5th graders, and the year after third graders, current 3rd graders. The current inactive subdivisions are listed there. In some cases, actually most cases, all cases, this is geographically closer to Carr than they are to Eversole. So we're hoping this is actually welcome news to these families. Now the question that's going to come up is, what about siblings? What if I have a 7th grader at Eversole and I've got a 5th grader that would go to Eversole but is now at Carr? We're not going to allow them to choose. The students that are at Eversole can stay there. That's absolutely okay. But if the parent chooses to have them go to Carr, that's fine. But so when I say they can't choose, they can't pick one or the other. The 5th grader will be attending Carr, and then the older student can go to Carr or stay at Eversole. It's relatively small number of students. I had Mr. Gill pull those numbers today, and we'll be reaching out individually to those families as well. Now a little before and after graph. The top one you've seen before. The bottom one you can just see again. This pushes that red area down a few years, and it does increase Carr's enrollment. All right, so these changes do delay the excessive overcrowding for a couple years, 2 to 4 years, and that gives us time. That gives us time to think about a levy and what we want to do with building new buildings. A phased-in, I did get several questions when presenting this to our team. What about a phased-in approach for elementary? Why are you not doing that? Why is this just all happening next year? A phased-in approach for elementary would be problematic for 2 reasons. One is it doesn't give us the immediate relief we need at DEP. We have to make changes now. And secondly, it really does delay the transitions for those families, especially if there's siblings, if there's younger siblings coming up. So these changes will all happen beginning next year. So I know you probably have questions. You should have questions. I rolled through that very, very quickly.
Just for clarity again, could you go over the communication plan again?
Absolutely, absolutely. Our plan is, and I'm going to look over to Doug so he can make eye contact with me. Our plan is in the next week or 2, we will reach out U.S. mail and let these families know directly if they're affected. We are also, Dr. Marshallton and I will be going to the PTOs of these buildings. We've already have it scheduled at Penny and Eversole, and then we're in the works of getting it scheduled at Glacier Ridge to let them know what will be happening.
Thank you.
Can you repeat how many families this affects this year?
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go back. Oh, Eric took it down. Okay, I'm going to do my best guess. The students that will be going to Glacier Ridge is about 80, 85. Students that will be going to Penny is about 100. And the students that will be going to Carr is about 32 next year, and then another 32 the next year, and another 32, adding up to about 100 over a 3-year period. And again, it's not, I know I keep saying this, it's not a magic solution for the future. It'll just get us where we need to be in 2024, 25.
What are we, I'm just thinking about the kids that moved from Glacier Ridge to Depp, and now we're telling them to go back.
Right.
That feels really hard.
It does feel really hard. Now, the comfort to me is all of our schools are really, really good. And as Dr. Marshausen said, for some of them, it will be going home. They were there, and to our knowledge, nobody had a negative experience at any of these schools. And the principals also articulated this. You know, to us, it's they're coming back. And so when we did a massive redistricting in 2020, we had PTO members, we had principals, we had everybody, 14 buildings there in the room talking about it. Well, it's a lot easier if it's 3 people, because the personalization and the transition plans that we can make, not only academically but socially, with what each student needs, what each family's story is, that type of thing, will be a lot more manageable at this scale, which is partly why we're not looking at a 14 building redistricting. So it does feel hard, and we want to acknowledge that for our families that are going to have to go through that. The other thing I worry about a little bit is I feel like they may feel like this was a promise. Okay, here's Depp, here's your new school, this is where you will be for 6 years. Unfortunately, I've been around in this district 24 years. If Mrs. May were sitting at this table, she would remind people that her students, I don't know, they've graduated from like 3 different high schools, I think. There's a lot of movement with a district that grows this quickly. So I want to acknowledge that it's problematic. But I do know, in talking to citizens that live up in that area, they acknowledge too this growth was just unexpected. And if I can take your question a little bit beyond what you asked me, we get a lot of people asking, why doesn't the district just stop growth? Just stop it. You can't grow fast enough, just tell them no. If only. The district has no zoning capabilities, nor do we have any decision-making authority with how development grows. As somebody said to me from this team, I don't even remember who, if developers have land and money, they will build. It's not our job to decide who builds and when, it's our job to educate the children who move in. So what happened, part of the pickle we're in, is because Jerome Township, that whole area, was slated for a certain number of homes, and then Union County changed that zoning to double it and then double it again. So we found out about those changes when everyone else did, and it's our job to respond, and in some cases, unfortunately, move families. Because what we don't want is we don't want to try to put 160% capacity at Depp, try and put those in that building. It really diminishes the experience for those students, and down the street have a school with a lot of room in it.
What about, are we providing any kind of small promise that, like, hey, we took you from the school you love, we put you in a new school, it was really awesome, we're moving you back to the old school, but maybe we're not going to move you again?
Mrs. Gillis, I think that's a great question. Okay. I'm not going to stand up here and promise anything. Again, I just don't know. So much of this is based on the economic environment and housing and realtors and all of that. Just a personal story. I lived up there. I bought my house high and sold it low. I had, you have no idea what's going to happen. Tomorrow, things could change. Growth could stop. Nobody knew. What was the price of lumber, Jeff? Like 50% over what it typically is, and people were still building houses. We on our team kept thinking, what's happening? And you'll go and an entire neighborhood will have popped up seemingly overnight. And so no, I'm not going to make any promises because it's just so hard to tell. And I do want to thank you for asking questions that lead to other answers. To get these projections, we have worked with 2 companies. One is called Future Think, and that was a company we worked with in 2020. Well, we reinforced the companies we worked with one called Cooperative Strategies, and they're nationwide and they're fabulous. They've worked with some of the biggest and most rapidly growing districts in the country, including Olentangy, who, if you know, has grown also at an unprecedented pace. They look deep. They go deep. They look at birth rates. They look at building permits. They look at plans for transportation and roads and hospitals and all of that to try to predict how a community will grow. They look at retail, at all of the, many, many different factors. And they're experts at this. And so I will tell you, I feel confident about Cooperative Strategies numbers. We met with them probably 5 or 6 times, and we asked hard questions. We tried to catch them being wrong. Mr. Kern actually did catch a mistake. He had an eagle eye for some math that was quickly corrected. So a lot of expertise has gone into this and a lot of review. So I feel good about them, but the housing market could flip tomorrow, and I could be saying something else to you next year at this time. And I hope our community understands we want every student to have a fabulous experience in elementary, middle, and high school. And thank goodness we can stand up here with confidence and say that all of our schools really are going to provide that world-class opportunity and education.
Thank you.
Thank you. You pointed out all the areas I wanted to talk about. Other questions?
All right, thank you for your presentation tonight.
Thank you so much.
Okay, item 9A is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the attached calendars for the school years 2023-24 and 2024-25. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. Rigby?
Yes.
Mrs. De Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis?
Yes.
And Mr. Melody?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. All right, Chief Operating Officer's comments. Mr. Stark?
Hi, nothing to approve tonight. I did want to give a bit of an update on Jerome, both our modulars and our addition. We have a lot of things that have been going on. I put a little bit of it in our board report, a lot of moving pieces, and we've made a significant progress in a very, very short time, especially on the modulars. None of this happens by luck. I just want to do a couple call outs. First on the modulars, Kevin Klingler, who is our coordinator of project management and preventive maintenance, has really, really put together a nice modular schedule, working with the City of Dublin. Can't say enough about the City of Dublin, by the way. They understand our aggressive timeline, and they have consistently proven to be a good partner, giving us on-time feedback to ensure that we're building something that's safe and responsible from all different code levels. With the modulars, you got this on here? There we go. This is my only slide. You keep the short slides at the end of the night. So what you're seeing here is where we're going to stage the modulars. So modulars are going to start to be delivered actually tomorrow. We'll be getting our first one tomorrow, and they're not yet ready to be, they're going to be placed permanently, adjacently to the current existing modulars in the back of Jerome. But until that time, as they get delivered, we're taking the east part of the parking lot, which is approximately about 180 spaces. And we are in lockstep with the Principal Allren, and that will take away some parking as we stage these. And that parking won't come back until the fall of next year, because what we're doing with Elford, who's our contractor for the addition, is once those modulars move, we hope to start construction in June, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And the Elford and all their subcontractors will use that for parking for all of their subs. So we've worked this out, so once we close that area, and if you go by Jerome now, you'll see it's all roped off, and we will have modulars begin staging there this week. We are about, I want to say, about a week away from getting our building permit. So we've already passed zoning for the modulars, and we've been working with the City of Dublin and Washington Township Fire. We've submitted a lot of plans. There was a lot of hard work that went into this in December. Again, very, very rapid pace, and we've gotten a lot of comments back. We are agreeable to all the changes that they want. They've given us some really good ideas and some changes they wanted to make. We resubmitted, and we feel we're about a week away. And then you'll see construction start on this, hopefully end of this month, beginning of February. And we're hoping to have these ready way ahead of schedule because it'll help with the additions, with getting the contractors out of there to make for the final piece. Now on the additions, we have to get through planning and zoning as well. And when you go to planning and zoning, you have to submit a hefty package of what the building will look like, the designs, the stormwater management. And once you submit that package, there's a certain amount of weeks you have to wait until you can get on the calendar to give time for the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Dublin City staff to go through that. So again, I want to do a quick thank to Shalina McConnell. Shalina McConnell has been phenomenal working with Perkins and Will in getting their package submitted. It was actually submitted Friday. And that was a huge, tremendous effort you can imagine for an addition that's close to 60,000 square feet, that's bigger than some of our elementaries, to put together a planning and zoning submittal this fast. So it was really a large team effort to get that submitted on time. And again, City of Dublin has been phenomenal on this. Right now, we're tentatively scheduled for March 17th to be on their calendar for planning and zoning, but we possibly may move that up. That's all dependent upon how much review they need. And hopefully, if things go well there, we should be able to start construction in June. So as you know, the board approved Elford to be our construction manager. So they have jumped right in. They have already built a forecasted budget for this project. We actually met this afternoon with Mr. Kern and Mr. Tyson to review that budget with Elford to make sure all the numbers line up, because this is a $26 million project when it's all said and in with soft costs and whatnot. And we went through all the numbers in great detail, by the way, and that's just their budget. Their next step will be in February. They're going to go out for bids on the first package. And that package is things such as things that are in short supply right now and hard to get, like joists and roofs and things such of that nature, because we're hoping to present that to the board as our first GMP, that's our guaranteed maximum price, in the March board meeting. Most of our projects over the past few years of this size and nature, we've submitted 2 GMPs to the board. The first one was for the whole project, and the second one was for what we call FF&E, which is our furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and that came later on. This project, and even though it's an addition, will have 3 GMPs. And the reason for the extra one is we cannot wait for construction documents to be done from the architect. So typically, construction documents, even if they're 75% done, we can go to GMP for it. But because this is moving so quickly, this was kind of we're given an aggressive schedule, but we like aggressive schedules, only with Dr. Marshall's, and we dig that. So to do this, the first GMP will be without construction documents, because it'll be most of the things that we already know. It's not designed. It's how many joists we need, roofs, and so forth. That you will get in March. The second GMP will be in June. And the last one, which is the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, will be in late fall. So all this is rolling right on schedule. The biggest, the next big toll gate for us is this planning and zoning meeting. And even before we submitted last Friday, we met with planning and zoning, the city staff, not the council obviously, but the staff, quite a bit to make sure that everything on the submittal is something they'd be looking for, trying to answer any proposed questions ahead of time, really dotting all of our I's, crossing all of our T's. So that is, that's what we have today. I would hopefully, in a future board meeting, maybe in the second one in February, I also have a lot more pictures to show of what these additions will look like. I might even have that in your board report. I've got some internal pictures I know I've shared, but we'll have some external ones to show as well. And they are making a video. It's not exactly cooked yet. Technology today that can actually show you a video of what it will look like walking into this this addition that hasn't even been built yet. So we'll be able to share that in the next month and a half. Any questions?
Thank you so much. The question, 2 things. Maybe you said it, and I just want to make sure I'm clear. When do the modulars? When do you start using them? When they're how long? How much longer? Fall.
Yeah. Even if they're set up, we won't put kids in them at the end of this year. It would be redoing everybody's schedule and everything, so it would be the fall.
Okay. And then building additions. Then estimated timeline for that is
Next fall.
Fall next year.
Okay.
The reason we're racing to get the modulars done so quickly with so much time, there's so many things that can go wrong, and we have such a hard date we don't want to miss. So that's why we're pushing to get these done way ahead of time. Also, by getting them done way ahead of time, it gets a team of contractors out of the Jerome area so the new team can come in for the addition. There's only so much room on that land to get everyone mobilized and all the different contractors, and we don't need 2 sets. So we're trying to do the modulars as fast as possible and get that wrapped up. And right now, we're on track to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mrs. Gillis, I had to write a letter to the city telling them that the modulars that we're putting there plus the ones that are there will only be there for 1 more school year. The promise was that those other modulars would have been gone a while ago. So great deal of concern that we stick to our schedule and that we build the addition that suits what we expect things to look like in Dublin. That planning and zoning has a say, and it's important to Dublin that everything fits, but that we then also get those modulars out as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you for the update.
Thank you very much.
All right, Executive Director of Human Resources.
Good evening, Dr. Marshausen, Mr. Kern, members of the board. Dr. Marshausen has shared with me today that a question that had come up about substitute hiring, and I just wanted to give a brief overview of what our process looks like. And so you'll see some substitutes on tonight's agenda, but it's a different process than what we typically go through for hiring substitute classified members or teachers. And so what I would tell you is that if you go out onto our website and look at the employment section, you'll see substitute positions or postings on there from time to time. Those positions are screened in our HR department, and then what we'll do is that we'll contact applicants who've applied, usually within a week, and then walk them through the process of applying through the ESC. So we contract with the ESC of Central Ohio for substitute services. And so we'll walk candidates through, this is what you have to do in order to be employed as a substitute in Dublin City Schools. So just wanted to share that. I know it's a question sometimes. We do get a lot of folks that are interested, and because of just the need that we have for substitutes, that's something that we try to respond to very quickly. So just wanted to share that before.
Generally speaking, what's the timeline if I were to fill out an application to be a substitute teacher or a paraprofessional? How long does that take?
So Dr. Marshausen, if you were to apply, you would hear back from HR within a week normally, and then if you want it, and then between that time and when you would actually start working, it really depends on once you get things moving with the ESC, we try to expedite that. So I think it's realistic to say 3 to 4 weeks would be a typical turnaround time. Thank you. So moving on to the agenda tonight, on the certified section, you'll see 2 retirements and 1 resignation. The retirements, Peggy Hardy, she'll be retiring with 16 years at Dublin City Schools from Thomas Elementary, and then Sharon Yapel will be retiring with 34 years Dublin City Schools from Deer Run Elementary. So we want to congratulate them and wish them well in retirement. Dr. Marshausen had mentioned that we had reached out, or he had reached out to the Ohio State University, and you're going to see 15 substitute nurses on this board agenda. These individuals would be on call and available to assist in our clinics for the remainder of this school year. So this is just another set of hands that will be available to help our nurses out and to make sure that we're adequately staffed in clinics and that we have the help that we need. There's also on the agenda a request to approve up to 15 additional extended days for our school nurses, and through reports from Mr. Andrus and through some of our conversations, you know that our school nurses have been an incredible, integral part of just our work, and so they've been on the front lines, and these additional days will just help them in their additional duties through as they navigate COVID along with their day-to-day work. There are 2 unpaid leave of absences on tonight's agenda on the certified side, and then you'll see several supplemental and pupil activity supervisor contract hires on, and then 1 district athletic event worker. Moving on to the classified agenda, there are 2 resignations on the agenda, and then 7 new hires, and 1 unpaid leave of absence and 3 salary changes on for your approval. And then the last section, stipends, there are 7 stipends on. 6 of those stipends have been previously approved. They're just revisions to names, either changes in adding a name or deleting a name. Those are all for the virtual academy. And then the last one is for the Davis, Washington, D.C. trip, and to pay a stipend to those chaperones who will be attending that event. Any questions on the HR section tonight?
I just have one, and you may have answered it, but I'm just trying to figure out if someone goes on to the website and is interested in applying for, ideally they want long-term. Do the short-term openings communicate with a long-term, somebody seeking a long-term position? Would they automatically kind of default to a shorter term, in hopes that they would fill that position and then maybe that develops into something?
Yes, Mrs. Rigby, what would happen is that if somebody hit the Apply Now section, they could apply for any of the sub-openings, and at this point, we would communicate with them and let them know what the process would be through the ESC, and I think that that would be the point in time that we could get them up and running either as a short-term sub or long-term sub within that 3 to 4 week time frame. And if they have any difficulty, they can certainly reach out to me or anyone on our HR team. For the certified teachers, Lynette Fott, who works in our department, she helps oversee that process as well. But between the two of us, we'll help that person.
Okay, thank you, Brian, for the update.
Thank you.
All right, item 12D, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve items 12A, personal action items certified, 12B, personal action items classified, and 12C, stipends requested. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. De Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis?
Yes.
Mrs. Rigby?
Yes.
And Mr. Melody?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Okay, future agenda items. Are there any additional items that the Board of Education would like to see in upcoming meetings? Okay, I do not hear any at this time. So
I guess I have like just one thought process, and you can totally say no, but I'm maybe fast tracking this slightly. So is it possible that we look at the calendar and by next board meeting, we can give an update? Obviously, Mrs. Rigby and I have to be able to work together on where we're kind of going with diversity and direction and just ideas. Can we share? Can I fast track that? Can that be a thing?
My intent is for Mrs. Schwanke and I to get with the two of you this week.
Perfect.
To both have a conversation about where you would like to see us go and to look at potential selection and purpose of the parent advisory group. The group was constructed by Dr. Hamilton and I in purpose, and I would like to sit with the two board members who are now on this committee and talk to you, and then potentially bring a conversation back from our work to the whole board for consideration, and I would hope to have that done by the 15th.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just piggybacking off of that, I think it obviously is important that you guys have the chance to do the committee meeting, but on top of that, we're in a different board now as the five of us, and there were a lot of discussions leading up to the point, I mean, even going back to previous superintendent as well, that led to the direction that we went in. And so I do think that we need to allow you guys to have that discussion, and then the five of us need to figure out where exactly we go from here, because the decisions and the direction that we went in unfortunately didn't work out. And obviously we're in a position now where we don't have a DEI director, and so I think that we need to be deliberate, not make impulsive decisions with it, and really figure out how the five of us come together and create a unified direction on this.
With the two of you on that group, Jen and I will sit down with the two of you to kind of talk. And Mr. Valentine, I think you're entirely right in the thinking that the greater conversation should take place at public in a board meeting, and we might bring you a recommendation or options from the committee, but I do think we need to have that at a publicized board meeting where people can hear our thinking, and we start to build that trust in having those open conversations in public meetings.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, now do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0.